You might be wondering what's the best way to use seller credits. Do I use it to my closing cost or do I use it to lower my monthly payment? I'm Nathan, and just in case you're new here, I'm a real estate investor and mortgage lender. Let's talk about how to figure out the best way to use those seller credits in today's video. What are seller credits? So the way I look at it is seller credits are used towards your closing cost, or in a simple term, it's a way for the sellers to incentivize you, the buyer, to go purchase their home. So how do you even get seller credits in the first place? The most common ways that we see is maybe you need repairs to be done and your real estate agent, which will help you negotiate the repairs that need to be done for a home, let's call it $5,000. They'll request $5,000 in seller credits so that way you can use that towards your repairs or a portion of it as well. The other common way is if you have a faster closing. So let's say you go in with a 14-day closing. So literally you put an offer in and then 2 weeks later you're a homeowner. A seller may prioritize that offer over a 30+ day closing, right? Because sometimes if you're selling a home, you may need the money sooner rather than later. So getting seller credits for a faster closing might be a way for the sellers to incentivize a faster closing. The other way you can do it is you can also finance your closing costs sometimes, where you increase the purchase price by $5,000, just as an example, and request $5,000 in seller credits. In a $500,000 home example, let's say you offer $505,000 with $5,000 in seller credits. The seller still nets the same amount of $500,000, but then you can use that $5,000 towards your closing cost. Now that we understand the what seller credits are, let's figure out the how to use seller credits, okay? So here's the 4 most common ways to use the seller credits. Number 1, we can use the seller credits to essentially just lower your closing cost. Number 2, we can use the seller credits to buy out your mortgage insurance to lower your monthly payment. Number 3, we can do a permanent rate buy down, again, to help lower your payment. Number 4, which is a temporary rate buy down, we can also use that to lower your payment. So with that being said, let's jump into the board of knowledge and I'll walk you through each of these examples so that way you have a better understanding. So we're at the board of knowledge here. I laid out the 4 options, and I'm going to go through each of these options and give you the examples of where your payments are going to be, where your cash to close is going to be estimated, of course, and then when to actually use each of these strategies based on where you are in your specific situation. So let's start with a simple example of a $500,000 home, putting about 5% down. Based on that, let's just use an example of $2,700 for your mortgage payment. This doesn't include property taxes or homeowners insurance, but what it does include is about $150 of PMI, which I'm going to put over here. So you're gonna have this payment of $150 of PMI. Let's write down the monthly payment just so we can keep track of that. And cash to close, you might be wondering, what does that mean? Down payment plus closing costs. So think about it almost as if you have that money, you can close on the home. So in this example, we have a cash to close, or C2C, of $35,500. So what we're gonna do is apply this $7,500 seller credit like I mentioned in this example. Well, bam. That actually brings it down to how much? So once we apply the seller credits of $7,500, you do the math, new C2C or cash to close is $28,000 in this situation. So you might be wondering, when should I use a regular credit or applying the seller credits towards your closing costs? So survey says, well, bam, when you're going to refinance or sell the home in 1 to 2 years. So essentially you're going to take the benefit of lowering your cash to close or acquisition cost immediately. And all these other options will lower your monthly payment, but you may not be able to break even if you're going to sell the home or refinance in 1 to 2 years. Option number 2 is a PMI buyout. So what you essentially do is buy out your mortgage insurance for the life of the loan upfront. So what we're gonna do is take that $7,500 credit and buy out your mortgage insurance. So what does that do with your monthly payment? It changes to $2,550 a month in this example. You'll notice that there's no PMI, and excuse me, I didn't have a little sticker because I ran out of ink, and you know, printers and ink, crazy. So next thing is, you're probably wondering what happens to my cash to close. We essentially took this seller credit of $7,500. We're gonna do that, apply it to here, and that way we buy out the mortgage insurance. So the cash to close ends up being right around the same of $35,500. So you might be wondering, when do we actually use this strategy of PMI buyout? Survey says, lower appreciating market. So basically, if you're buying in a city or local area where the home prices don't go up as fast as the national average, you actually might benefit quite a bit by buying out your mortgage insurance up front, because it may take you a while, maybe even 5 to 10 years, to have enough equity to remove your mortgage insurance. Now, if you're wondering how to remove your PMI or private mortgage insurance, I actually have a video on that. I'll put it somewhere over here. But going back to this, if you're on the flip side, where you're in a very high appreciating market like Southern California, Los Angeles, Orange County, County, San Diego County, things like that. You may benefit by actually just having your PMI, because in 2 years, maybe even 1 to 3 years, you might be able to remove your PMI naturally. All right, so the third option, which is the rate buy down. It's a permanent rate buy down. You're still gonna have private mortgage insurance in this hypothetical example, but you can actually buy your interest rate down just a little bit, and your monthly payment will end up being about $2,600 in this example. As a quick reminder, C2C, or cash to close, remember, is your down payment plus closing costs. So in these examples, remember the $7,500 seller credits is used up here. So that's gonna be blank and blank. So then your cash to close for this example again is $35,500. So you might be wondering, when do we use this strategy, the permanent rate buy down? Survey says increasing interest rate cycle. When rates are going up, I would highly recommend doing a permanent rate buy down. So that way you lower your rate, and if rates go up, you already permanently have got your rate locked in. The other thing that I didn't mention is your PMI is about $150 a month. So as time goes on, if you're in a higher appreciating market, not this one, but a higher appreciating market, your mortgage insurance may fall off in about 1 to 3 years, depending on your market, right? So this payment of $2,600 a month might actually get even lower as you naturally remove your PMI. All right, so the fourth option is the temporary buy down. You're still gonna have your PMI of $150 a month. So with the temporary buy down, what happens is your first 12 payments is 1% less than your actual note rate. So in this example, let's just say you have a 5% interest rate, your first 12 payments would be at a 4% rate. So hypothetically, let's just say your payment is $2,450 for the first 12 payments. After that, the remainder payments are going to be about $2,700 in this example. So you might be wondering how many seller credits we have left over. So with the 1-0 temporary buy down, the cost is roughly, in this situation, based on the loan amount, about $4,500. So we took $4,500 and applied it to the 1-0 temporary buy down, and we're left over with $3,000 in seller credits. So we applied that and we get a new cash to close of $32,500. So with the temporary buy down, you can see it's kind of like a hybrid of these other options, where you can lower your interest rate for a little bit. You can also lower your closing costs a little bit. And again, remember, your private mortgage insurance might be able to fall off naturally in 1 to 3 years, depending on what market you're in. Last but not least is, when would we use this temporary buy down strategy? And survey says, I would recommend using this in a decreasing interest rate cycle. So imagine rates are on the higher end and they're starting to come down. So what you do is you do the temporary buy down, so your payment's subsidized for the first 12 payments, or it could be even 24 payments. And then as rates come down, you would refinance and exit the loan into a lower payment. So we just talked about the 4 different ways to use seller credits to either lower your closing costs. We can do a PMI buyout. We can also do a permanent buy down. Last but not least is the temporary buy down, which you can see on the board behind me. If you found this interesting, feel free to schedule a complimentary discovery meeting with the link down below. That's where we're going to go over your today goals and tomorrow goals to make sure we find a tailored mortgage solution for you. And as always, I'm rooting for you. This is Nathan, signing out.